Yo, what it do, what it do, what it do, what it do? Your boy Zaytoven checking in.
Oh man, good. This is far.
And then testing out the whole, like, you know what I'm saying, whole network. Seeing how that whole network work out.
Xavier Dotson was born in Frankfurt, Germany on an army base his dad was stationed at. His time overseas was short, as his family would move back to the United States, where he would spend his childhood in San Francisco, California. He was introduced to music at a young age through his church, which would always play a huge role in his life, even to this day. His mom was the choir director and his father was the preacher at their local church when he wasn't deployed or on duty. This inevitably got Xavier and his 3 younger siblings all playing music in the band. Although he was talented in multiple instruments, he always gravitated toward playing the piano and organ, having no idea at the time how impactful this would be on his later career. In middle school, his friends would get him listening to rap music for the first time. Because his dad being a preacher, he was not fond of any type of rap music, especially the lyrics behind it. He could only listen to it at school or when his dad wasn't around, but he started to grow more and more fond of it and never looked back, despite his dad's disapproval. In high school, he decided to divert his attention from the church band to learning how to produce music, utilizing his keyboard skills. He joined his high school band and would practice music production between school and basketball. One night, Xavier was playing at the halftime show during a football game when his keyboard skills caught the attention of a local.
When I was diagnosed with HIV, I felt alone. I got to a place where I could not hide.
Rapper. That rapper was JT the Bigga, who was making a small name for himself in the Bay. JT took him home to the studio that night and they began working.
His studio, like, look, Zay, you already know how to play the keyboard. This how you run this hook up to that.
Initially, he had Xavier lay a soundtrack to a movie he was working on, but eventually they moved to making beats for JT's studio album. With JT opening the doors of his personal studio to Xavier, he now had his own space with all the equipment he would need to utilize his skills and really start to produce beats. He would earn his first bit of money from selling beats to JT and his friends, which really made him feel like he may be able to make a career out of this. Although he was still in high school at this time, his consistent effort to go to the studio every day and his work with JT would catch the ears of other Bay artists. This is still a point in hip hop where everything was basically done manually, so there really wasn't a lot of producers out there making beats. It was pretty rare, and when you found someone like Xavier who could play the keyboard and use all the equipment to kick out multiple beats a day, you wanted to get to know that person. This is how JT felt about him and why he gave him a studio to work out of early on. Artists like E40 and Messy Marv would reach out to Xavier, who is now going by the name Zaytoven Beats, inspired by the classical music composer Beethoven. As a kid still in high school, working with these bigger artists, he had everything he needed to keep pushing forward and jumpstart his career. But he came to a situation his senior year of high school when his parents broke the news that his father was retiring and relocating to Atlanta, Georgia, and the whole family would need to move. Feeling like he was really onto something and not wanting to lose momentum, he asked his parents to stay in the Bay so he could continue to build his name up. Initially they were hesitant, but seeing how much progress he had made while balancing school and music, they agreed to let him stay as long as he got a job for a backup plan. In order to afford to stay in San Francisco, which is one of the most expensive places to live on the West Coast, he needed to hustle twice as hard, selling beats and cutting hair just to make ends meet. He would finish high school on the West Coast but would get overwhelmed by the cost of living, putting him behind on payments. He decided from there forward he would save all his incoming money for the next couple months to buy his own studio equipment so he could fully operate on his own, as well as have the luxury of making music and recording artists in his own home. He realized there was no realistic way to stay in the Bay, so he began buying and shipping all of his new studio equipment to his parents' house in Atlanta, where they had a basement waiting for him in his new studio. Soon after, he would officially relocate to Atlanta with them. Upon moving to his parents' house, he wasted no time setting up his new studio in the basement. Initially it was just a few essential items, but over the coming months he would transform it into a full-on studio, equipped with a recording booth as well as a barber setup, where he continued to cut hair as a backup plan. While attending barber school, as well as being a barber in general, he got to talking and meeting a lot of people. One day in barber class, his friend would tell Zay about a guy named Radrick. Radrick was a local artist that was trying to get his label and artists off the ground. Inevitably, they would link up to work. Radrick would bring artists to Zay, and he was able to build up his brand to the point where all the local artists were coming to the basement to record. After the two became closer, Zay would always tell Radrick to leave the streets and try rapping as well, since he liked the energy he would bring to the studio. Radrick would record his first songs under the rap name Gucci Mane, and the two began working non-stop for the coming years. As the basement studio got more and more popular and more artists started coming to Zay for beats and recording time. Rappers like OJ the Juice Man, Young Ralph, Yo Gotti, and of course Gucci Mane and all his associates would record in the basement for years to come. It wasn't easy to get to this point though. When he first moved to the South, he brought the whole West Coast sound with him, and it would take him time to really start to craft his own sound.
Playing chords and playing in church is a whole lot different than making a beat. Everybody when I was first making a beat, I couldn't get nobody to like it.
At the time, he didn't realize the sound he was crafting would help create a whole new genre of hip-hop. It was the start of trap music. Although other artists like T.I. and Young Jeezy were also creating trap music at the time, the music Zaytoven and Gucci were making was different. It was more of a raw and unpolished sound, because they were doing this all on their own without the help of any major recording studios. The sound caught on though, and people loved it. From 2001 to 2005, they really started to make a name for themselves, starting to gain a fan base of people, especially in Georgia. In 2005, Zaytoven would get his first nationwide recognition when he produced a hit song for Young Jeezy and Gucci Mane, which was So Icy. The song was a massive success, and only gained more popularity after it caused widespread beef between Young Jeezy and Gucci Mane for a dispute over payments and rights to the song.
Gucci and Jeezy, where there was a miscommunication about whose song it needed to be and all that. I was the only person that can, say which way it go, because I got, I'm the only one that even registered and filled out anything on the song.
Regardless, he had the biggest song out on the radio, and this was bringing his name in front of millions of new people who all wanted to know who made that beat. From 2005 forward, Zaytoven's beats would be heard on just about every artist from down south's music. He was one of the originators of the new trap style, and as much as people tried to copy his style, there was really only one real place to get a Zaytoven beat, and it showed.
Steve, your slow internet is killing me. Literally.
Background and participation in his church also made it easier to dabble into other styles such as R&B and soul beats. This would help him work with a wide variety of artists from down south trap to R&B beats for Usher and Nicki Minaj, earning him a Grammy Award in 2011, something very few producers have accomplished. In 2014, although the hip-hop sound is always changing with time, Zay never stopped looking for new artists and talent. This mentality would lead him to discovering people like the Migos, who he found before the fame, and helped them produce their breakthrough record, Versace. He never stopped there though. In 2015, he produced for just about every major artist to come in the game, providing over 10 mixtapes that year alone with executive production, 2 of them being Future's Beast Mode and iconic Dirty Sprite 2. In 2016, he would produce 7 songs on Gucci Mane's first album after being released from a long prison term, as well as working with the breakthrough superstar Lil Uzi Vert on 2 songs. This helped prove Zaytoven was in the music for the long run. Unlike many producers who have come and gone, Zaytoven has always stayed relevant, outlasting almost every producer from his generation. He did this by never settling, continuing to balance his classic sound but also catering to the newer generations of music. This wasn't new to him though, as we can trace this all the way back to his initial transition from the Bay to Atlanta. Following this method is what helped him birth a whole new genre of music, as well as staying relevant 22 years after making his first beat. Legend says he will still cut your hair to this day in the studio for $100. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this content, consider liking and subscribing for more.